And we're live, 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 live. I want to say that a bunch of times. Once again with uh, another session of Angular Unfiltered. I always forget to turn on the tweet. There we are. So make sure that people will see that one more time. I always at least try to tweet it out once or twice uh, before, close to before and then during, so people will be fresh in people's minds that use the latest on the timeline like me. But yeah, Brandon, you can see me, Brandon T. Roberts on Twitter. You probably know my face by now, but if you don't, first time watching, that's cool too. And today I have with me Kate. So you want to introduce yourself? I'll talk to you. Well, we talked on Twitter and mainly through gifs of SpongeBob.
SpongeBob, my favorite.
And I kind of gathered that. But yeah, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Do you know why I like SpongeBob?
No, I don't.
It's one cartoon character that has a job.
Oh. I never even thought of that. It works at the Krusty Krab, huh? What?
Yeah. He flips the Krabby Patties, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Kate Sky. Yeah, we've kind of met on Twitter. I started stalking all of you guys after I watched all the NgRx stuff because I'm obsessed about NgRx. And so we kind of started on this late night thing that I was working on, and one thing led to another. I'm here. But yeah.
Well, cool. Let's go back to SpongeBob really quick. I never even thought that he was the only cartoon character I think of that had a job. Maybe SpongeBob one day will flip to a career in tech instead of
right?
Maybe they have an episode where he tries out like working on a computer instead of flipping burgers or something. That would be interesting.
That would be fun. Yeah, because he get his driver's license really badly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe that's his next career move, is trying to get into programming.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you said you've done some stuff with NgRx, and we could talk about that. But was NgRx your first interaction with Angular? Like, tell me your Angular, what you've been doing with Angular, because I know you've been probably grinding for a while. I know there's a lot of people out there grinding for a while before they like hop on Twitch or whatever, podcast or whatever.
Well, here's the thing. So with Angular, my first time consulting for a company that had Angular project was in 2016.
Okay.
I worked on like a super secret government contract. And it was in Angular. They kind of made this path through different frameworks and finally landed at Angular. So I worked on that a little bit, and then my contract was over, and I had a little bit of a pause where I worked on like a bunch of APIs. It was like an API team that I worked on, but I was always like, keeping up with Angular because I'm like, I'm going to come back to it. I really like it. And finally, I switched to another contract. And right now I'm working on a team for Aon here in Illinois. It's a TRP group. It's Talent Rewards and Performance Team. And we work on a portal that shows fancy reports for compensation data for like big companies like Google and them.
Okay.
So yeah, they're really focused on it being really pretty. So Angular is like a big piece of it. Yeah, so it's really, really fun project. It has some challenges, but mostly it's really fun. And when I came in there, they had I think it was like an Accenture contractor that was like, you guys should use NgRx. And I'm like, all right, tell me about NgRx. I'm gonna do it. And like he left, and he's like, okay, Kate will add it on. So I just jumped in there and started adding NgRx, and probably did bunch of bad things, but
hey, welcome to the club. I mean, we use NgRx in the beginning, and we sling code. That's what we do. That's just how it goes. We're still learning at the time.
Yeah, exactly. So I just like went all in and started adding, like just started changing all of the calls to the API to use actions and doing effects and everything. And with time, I found that that I was using some of the operators wrong, and like the switch map
I
and all
only
that.
use switch map, so I don't see any problems with.
Exactly, that's exactly what I was using, switch map, and I just could not figure out what was wrong. Like, why was my calls canceled and just things flying all over. But yeah, so that's why I kind of started following you guys and watching all of the videos, and yeah, I learned a lot, and now it's like maybe I could teach someone about NgRx.
Hey, yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you there. I think you could. You probably already are. So, because I see you writing like blog posts and written a few blog posts about it. So, what did you use? You said you used Angular since 2016. What did you? And you didn't use NgRx until I guess somewhat recently. But what did you? What was your like go to before you started using it? Were you just like
just following, the regular subscribing, unsubscribing paradigm?
Okay. So you're just using like regular RxJS and I guess whatever Angular provided for the most part?
Yeah, whatever Angular provide. I didn't really know anything about RxJS or NgRx until I started using NgRx, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
It was really a learning experience when I started doing NgRx. But yeah, you can't go back. Like, once you use that, it's like, you don't want to subscribe to anything anymore. So I'm always looking for ways to improve my code, and the code base that we have at this job was we took it from they took it from another company that did a piece, and then they took over here in Illinois. So a bunch of it was written not in the perfect way, so I kind of got obsessed on how can we make this clean, and so that's how I came up with the clean code talk that I do sometimes. And actually, yeah, I can pitch it later, but it's really an attempt to document all of the things that we were doing wrong, and maybe convincing my team to do cleaner code, because they're all really, really smart people, like the people on the team who are Angular developers, but it's on a high visibility project that's really hard to refactor.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to move things around.
Yeah, very, very hard. So when I just started, I started refactoring this one component, and everybody was yelling at me, "Don't touch it!"
So you just came in like guns blazing, submitting large PRs, trying to change people's code. How did that go?
Yeah, it did not go really well at all. Yeah, I was yelled at. There started like kindly asking me to please make smaller PRs. So I'm like, I can't do smaller PRs because everything needs to be fixed. But then, I got with the program, and it's, I started playing nice, and now it's, I try to do like smaller, cleaner things for new things, and like maybe if there is a bug, I'll clean up a little bit. So I do like small brooming versus like blowing everything up with the handgun, like you said, or a machine gun.
So you prefer smaller PRs in general, as opposed to larger? Because I've worked on some projects where you had to do large PRs because the CI process took some amount of time that was longer than what I wanted it to. So are you in favor of the smaller PRs, or it just depends on where you are, or what you're trying to crank out, I guess? I'm
okay with big PRs. The people who are reviewing PRs are not okay with it. I would rather.
There you go. That's the key.
Yeah,
I'm fine with slinging large PRs around. The people who have to review it, I think it's a little more challenging for them.
Yeah, what's the problem? I mean, just review 300 pages of changes. Not a big deal. Yeah, I probably would not like to review large PRs, but I have done it, and I know that things could fall through the cracks when you're reviewing large PRs. But and that's probably where refactoring is only refactoring when you have unit test rule. And, most of us don't have the luxury or the time, or nobody wants to pay for unit tests.
You're saying people out here writing code and not writing tests? I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Yeah, believe it. Yeah, I think it all depends on if you are on a team where there is an architect who is like, you must write unit tests. This is going to be our company rule, 90% or 80% unit test coverage. Unless you have that person who is really strong opinionated about it, that's really the only way it's going to happen. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, it would be nice if we have them, but RCICD is pretty large because we have like this big repository that runs everything, the back end and the front end and everything. So we only deploy really twice a day, even if PR is merged, just because it's too big. And that's fine because the number of people on the team is just,
Yeah, it's usually a smaller, I think you have a little more leeway when you have a smaller team as opposed to like a large group of developers working on a single project.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the PR thing.
Cool. So you started blogging about NgRx. Had you written any blogs or articles and stuff prior to your like push on clean architecture?
I had a blog. Actually, I had a blog that I recently switched. So my new blog post about NgRx are really like a new blog that I switched from. I did a GitHub blog. It was like based on GitHub pages, and I was using that markup language. What was it?
You're using the one that's built into the GitHub pages.
Yeah,
like Jekyll.
Jekyll. Yes. That was my blog.
Okay.
So it was kind of cool. It was all done through PRs and everything, and I could put JavaScript in there, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I can, put anything I want in there, even like, plain JavaScript. And then I pivoted back to WordPress, and the reason I did that is because I was spending too much time creating blog posts.
Oh yeah, I see. I ran into that too, even with just like I relaunched my blog a couple of times. And the part that I'm always searching for is for the blog to the infrastructure to get out of the way so that my brain can fill it with words and not not code, right?
Yeah, the only problem with WordPress I found is an ability to like embed things like stack blitz. You can't really, at least I couldn't find a way to do it. So it's like you either do a picture or you have to do a gist from GitHub. So it's kind of a pain because you have code and then you have to copy paste it into a gist or whatever you call it. Is that how you call it, gist or gist?
Hey, whatever your choice.
I don't know. What do you call it?
Is it GIF or is it GIF? I don't know.
No, not a GIF. It's like in GitHub, you can do like a code snippet file.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like people argue whether it's GIF or GIF. I wonder if I've never seen anyone argue over whether it's gist or gist. So,
some people just want to fight.
Want to call it today.
Yeah, so that's the kind of a blocker for me, and you definitely cannot input anything Angular into it. And I don't want to learn PHP and trying to figure out how to do plugins. I just don't have time for this.
Right. So you got like other things to do. I imagine I say that because of course I looked at your page and you have 5 kids, so I imagine that you don't have a lot of time to be messing around with WordPress.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to write something up really quick.
That's exactly right. So priorities, right? Which book was that where they say schedule your priorities, and just like making a handmade blog was just not a priority anymore. So yeah, my kids. Yeah, I have one kid in production. I call it. He's 24. So
okay, cool.
On his own, and I didn't convince him to become a programmer. I really wanted to. He's in sales. He likes to sell things, and he's really good at it too. So
he saw you spending all that time writing code and everything. It was like, nah, I think I'm gonna do something else.
Yeah, I think I didn't convince him that my lifestyle is something that he would want to do.
You mean crazy hours and being stressed out over code is not the lifestyle you wanted to choose? I don't even know.
I know. Now I have 4 more children I'm trying to convince to do, but I told them if they become tennis pros, they don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
So they're playing tennis right now.
Okay. So you got your work projects. Do you have any like open source stuff that you've been doing in addition to like just writing examples for like blog posts? Do you have anything that you're like just maintaining like as a side project that's using Angular or something else?
So my recent attempt to do anything on the side. So when this pandemic started, I'm part of this mommies Facebook group, and I'm like, all right, girls, give me an idea. I want to use NX monorepo, and I want to use practice my NgRx skills. I need an idea, so we came up with this idea to like find at-home services while you cannot go to like salons and spas and stuff. So I started this repository where I'm doing NX, I'm doing NgRx, and I think I stopped at 2 or 3. I have domain objects in there, so it's like providers, and there was like scheduling domain, and again, like it's not going really fast. I think what I need to do is I need to find people who want to become Angular programmers, and they need a project, and they can just build it.
So you just want to be like the project manager. You gotta have the ideas.
I'll be an architect, because the architecture is there, and I can tell them what to do, and I'll review PRs.
Yeah, architect. Architect is a better term. You can be architect of the project.
Yeah. And then I can use it too, because I was really struggling. Who's gonna do my hair while I'm on on quarantine? Like I can't go to the salon, and even though it was not allowed, and they said like people will be fine, but I know people still got their nails done. And you'll see, like I'll meet a person somewhere, and I'm like, your nails are done. Can you do it some underground nail technician?
So you're looking at them like you're looking at people in quarantine like you hadn't been at home this whole time. I said I've been trying to distance and do all the things, and you out here with your hair looks done, your nails. You've been at the shop. Like
you've been somewhere, yeah. You've been getting it done. So that's my side project. It has a name. Mm-hmm. It's called Sarafan Radio, and it's a Russian name for. When you say Sarafan Radio in Russian, it means it's word-to-mouth advertisement.
Oh, okay.
So if you put .com at the end, then that's gonna come up with my site. It's okay. It's really nothing you can use right now.
Okay, so you're still just building out the beginnings of it right now.
Yeah, if you go to that link, I could probably put it somewhere. It comes up and everything, and it has like couple of pieces you can go into, like you can become a beta tester. I think it's like a Google form or something. Mm-hmm. So, and you can, and then another thing I really wanted to practice is authorization piece. So I started using Auth0 for it. So I registered like that. That's the piece I built out with NgRx. Mm-hmm. To go and like you can register and all that. So that's done.
Yeah, shout out to Sam Julene and Auth0 for putting that out there for people to use.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I really wanted to practice it, so that was my playground for that too.
So is this going to turn into like a long-term project even after things go back to normal, or are you just kind of using this as like a springboard to build more, to get some more experience with these things that you may not get to do on the job?
Yes. Was it a more question? I don't know. You know what? I will see where it takes me. I don't know. It depends, because it's just so hard to find time to do anything extra. Mm-hmm. Of course, I wish it took off and I made billions of dollars on it. Who wouldn't say that, right?
Yeah, then you're gonna have to move it off. Well, I don't know where you have it hosted now, but I can say then you have to move it off GitHub pages. I don't know if you're just pushing it there or not.
No, it's actually it is on GitHub pages, and it's another thing I published it to was the Azure Static static web pages.
Okay.
So I followed John Papa's tutorial on it when he came up with it. So it's published in 2 places. Only my domain is registered to the Azure static web pages versus the GitHub. But GitHub, I think it's also gets pushed to GitHub pages as well.
Okay. How did you? I know that the Azure static websites is a pretty new thing. I haven't even tried it yet. What was your experience in using that in like with the context of deploying an Angular app?
It was pretty straightforward. I had one gotcha with the NX monorepo. There is a post build that I had to remove from it. But other than that, it was pretty straightforward. Just follow step-by-step tutorial that John had published.
Okay.
And that's it. I mean, it was really, really straightforward. It was actually solved a problem where I tried publishing something else on Azure with Angular. I mean, you have a straight up Angular app, and it was just so difficult to publish to Azure. You had to kind of figure out because you don't have a web config file, and that's what Azure is kind of like IIS server, right?
Oh, wait a minute. IIS, no.
No, it's not. But it's like it's expecting something similar to like the .NET web application. So it was a struggle, but this one was really, really straightforward. So I think if they really make it post preview, it's something to consider to use.
Okay. Yeah, I used .NET back in the day when I was working on like C# web applications, and I remember having to fiddle with those web configs, however many we had for the different deployments.
Yeah.
But that was pretty fun.
You used to. I still have to do it.
Oh, you still have to do it. Okay.
Yeah, we still have a web project, and we have we actually didn't go to .NET Core yet, so it's next. So next feature is going to be in .NET Core.
Okay. So using Angular, was the Angular that you did, was that like a migrations, or did y'all have to build the app from scratch in Angular, or was it something that you kind of came into?
This one was not greenfield. This one was, so they basically have a portal that's inside, that's built on like a content management solution, and Angular is like augments the functionality of what the marketing people can build by hand. So if you need to fiddle with like the backend, build reports and stuff, so that's where Angular comes in. So really, what we use Angular for is like the web component is like embedded into the page. So it's really not a SPA application. And,
so it's more, it's more integrated in with like the shell of something larger.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, yeah, that kind of reminds me of how Angular JS apps you could just drop them in somewhere, but I guess you're more dropping in an app application now versus just being able to drop in a directive or something, or something in Angular JS that kind of takes over.
Yeah, this platform actually has some pages in Angular JS, some of them in Angular. I think we're on 8, going to 9, hopefully. But yeah, it's not a SPA application. There's no routing of any kind like that. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. It doesn't use, since you're just dropping it in, you don't have any routing built into the Angular app. So do you use, or I guess that's the only one. So do you use you use the router in your other app? Yeah.
Does it feel a lot different using it there as opposed to just dropping into an app with?
Yeah, because you don't have a router. You don't have any routes. You basically you have this
like
one component.
Components, right?
Yeah, one component, and if you want to switch between components, you kind of have to, swap. It's really, there's no routes. You can't click on a button and it will take you to another route. It's all it's basically one big Angular application that gets loaded.
Okay.
For each page.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of NX, I had a question. So
this is an NX office hour now.
You know what? Because I'm trying to do a demo for them to to start building like all these components in like into NX. I want to do like a POC for them, but I've come to a problem. There's no, like, I can't launch it in IE. Is that like, what do I need to do to make it work in IE?
You mean you can't build an app with NX and IE?
If I do NgServe and I open an IE, it still like doesn't show.
Okay. I'm going to say you probably need to, if you haven't already, probably need to update your browser's list file so that it will.
Yeah, that's what I thought I had to do, and I thought
polyfills. Yeah, it's usually, if you're building it, then you need to have the correct browser list files there, or maybe missing some polyfills for IE. Okay. So I would check. I was always check there first. Polyfills are probably the best way to look at first, because it's, my guess is that it's trying to use some web API that just doesn't exist in IE, and you need a polyfill to patch that API. So I'm going to take the high road and say it may not be an NX problem. It may just be an IE polyfill problem. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, if it's something I can take a look at, we could definitely take a look.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. So let's hear your hot takes on NgRx, if you have any, because you said you use it, you like it. What parts about it don't you like, or you don't like, and what's your experience been with it since you started using it? Because you said in the beginning, which is I think a lot of people's experience. I started using it. I started slinging things around, and then I kind of honed in on how to use it. So what's your overall experience of it been like?
Well, to me, there was no clear direction on like where to put the files, like where do they go? Because it does add like reducer, action, and effects file in a folder, and I kind of just like put everything in there. All the effects, and it's like the file just grew big, really, really big. And then I'm like, all right, I'll break it up later, and I never got around to it.
Okay, just so I'm clear, you're saying you put everything in a file, or you put everything in a folder?
No, I have a folder. I have a root store folder.
Okay.
And in that folder, I have the reducers file, and I have the effects file, and actions, and it's not the new syntax, it's the old syntax.
Okay. Oh man, that is rough life.
I know. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do new syntax. And it was before your blog post about mixing and matching. I saw that and I appreciate it, because I will get to it eventually.
That's what I write blog posts as notes to my future self, is the way I put it. Because I'm going to have to come back and reference these things that I've worked on in projects that you don't get access to the projects once you leave them most times. So writing a blog post helps.
That actually is, I think I've heard you say that, and I make that as my point of view too. It's, it will be nice if I help somebody, but it's really for me to remember how to come back to it, and I don't have to Google search it every time I have to do it again. So, gotcha. So so that was one of the issues I encountered, is like how to separate it into, because I didn't really have a concept of like, this action is going from this component. Maybe I need to put some of the actions closer to that component, and like the naming of the actions, they're not very intuitive. So
yeah, cool.
Oh, there it is.
I just brought this up. I figure we got a couple more minutes so you can get some plugs in here. At least.
I'm not advertising it by any means.
No, we're about to get some contributors. You're about to get some contributors. That's what we're. I
think that would be cool. Why not? Because some people just don't know it. Like, I created it for me so I can play with something, right? And like learn something. And I think if people want to learn something, and they don't really know, because it's by no means this is a public thing, but at least it's coming from somebody who has some experience with Angular, and and hopefully this could help somebody. It could help me to growing it.
There you go. So who and I'll add this to I add a link to the GitHub repo so people can go check it out. And send you some PRs, because I always say PRs are always welcome, whether even if it's not my even if it's not my project. So
Right.
people to contribute to something there. Like I said, I put stuff out there. Some things I put out there is like work in progress things, but it's at a point where people can start like hacking around on it. And what I end up doing is like opening issues, so at least people can see where the thing is going. So that way, if somebody wants to submit a PR, they can.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, this one definitely needs a lot of work.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanna plug before we wrap up?
Well, I am doing Angular Toronto next week.
Yes, Angular Toronto. I don't have a link. Let's see, Angular Toronto.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Alex invited me to talk about clean code, so I'm gonna nag people about clean code again. Hey, why not?
So clean code is your thing, huh?
I like clean because I have so many kids in my house.
Yes.
I try to teach my kids to keep my house clean, so it kind of transfers over into my work. Not obsessive, but I just like to keep things organized.
Okay, so yeah, everybody, July 14th, Kate will be on Angular Toronto meetup talking about clean code. Be sure to check that out. Be sure to follow her on Twitter, Kate Scott 8. I'm Brandon T. Roberts on Twitter. Thank you again for joining. Maybe we can have you on again sometime when you get further along with your project and see where it is.
Sure, let's do it. Thank you for having me.
Yep. All right, and we'll see everyone else next time. Like I said, if you're watching and you want to come on and talk some Angular, hot takes or not, just hit me up on Twitter or wherever, and we'll make it happen. And we'll see everybody later.
Bye.